Now, introduction. Turkey is a country that is located between Europe and Asia region. Turkey, or better known as the Republic of Turkey, is located at the crossroads of the Balkans, Caucasus, Middle East, and Eastern Mediterranean. The largest city is Istanbul, while the national city is Ankara. As of 2021, the population of Turkey is estimated around 85 million people. Now, the country is famously known for beautiful places of attraction such as the Blue Mosque, the New Mosque, Hagia Sophia, Bosphorus Bridge, Mount Ararat, resting places of the famous Noah's Ark, Troy, the setting of the famous Trojan War, and the Temple of Artemis, which is listed as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Now, the Turkey of economy is considered as a free market and diversified economy, where the economy is driven by 3 main sectors, which is industrial or manufacturing, service, and agriculture. Now, for Turkey's economy, Turkey strongly emphasizes macroeconomic economy and fiscal policy frameworks, where they are open to foreign trade and finance. The economic activities of Turkey follows the rules and regulations within the European Union, and due to COVID-19 pandemic, Turkey has been facing challenges as the rate of unemployment and poverty rises. For the sectors, industrial, service, and agricultural sectors are the main contributors for the country, where agricultural sector provides a GDP of 6.4% despite having 80% of employment. This is because the sector is affected by low productivity due to the heavily reliance on small farms for agricultural activity. However, Turkey continues to be the net exporter for agricultural products. As for industrial sector provides a GDP of 27.2% with employment rate of 26%. And in this sector, the emphasis is on the infrastructure project for the economy. As for service sector provides a GDP of 56.5% with the employment rate of 55.9%. Despite having a high percentage of GDP and employment rate, the service sector were heavily affected by the recent COVID-19 pandemic as Turkey had to close their borders to curb the pandemic from spreading. Now, for Turkey's government, in the context of labor market, new policies had been established due to the COVID-19 pandemic, where the government created a labor market assistance which aims to protect the employees' income and jobs. The government also reduces working hours to ensure employees will not be laid off, and cash assistance program were introduced where ministry provide assistance for small businesses or loss of income support. The government also offers tax breaks and low interest loans to reduce the burden on the people. In the context of industrial relations, trade unions were established to protect the employees while at the same time improving the economic and social aspect of Turkey's economy. Trade union also enables negotiations to be performed, and they are also have the right to call a strike or lockout. The 3 trade unions that is written on the slide are considered to be the 3 largest trade union organizations. Next, in terms of legal and administrative, written codified constitution that is written in a single document called the Constitution was enacted in 1982, where the Constitution is considered as unitary, where the government has the supreme authority in legal and administrative category. The Constitution was amended on 27 April 2017 due to referendums being held, and the Constitution is effective as of 9 of July 2018. For the governance system, quasi-presidential system, where voters simultaneously vote for both the members of the legislature and the Prime Minister, was used. The President was elected through the voters of the people, and the members of the parliament, known as the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, are elected through proportional representation. The governance has 3 branches: executive, legislative, and judicial.
Current employment statistic. The adaptability of labor market is very essential to adapt the financial crisis and take advantage of new opportunities in a country. According to Parents 2017, labor productivity is necessary requirement for high output, employment, and wage growth as well as for long-term impressive economic growth. The table shows the statistic of labor force in Turkey in January 2021. The total population in Turkey is 63.236 million people, while the labor force makes up 49.92% of population, which has 31.567 million people. The diagram also shows that the employment rate of female workers is just 27.5%, which is less than half of Turkish male workers of 60.5% in Turkey. Furthermore, compared with previous month, the number of employed persons which aged 15 and above in January 2021 increased by 822,000 to 27.706 million. The employment rate was 43.8%, which had an increase of 1.2%. In contrast, the number of unemployed persons in Turkey fell by 1,000 to 3.861 million. The unemployment rate was 12.2%, which had a decrease of 0.4%. On the other hand, the total foreign workers in Turkey is 2.2824 million people. Foreign workers in Turkey usually work in production and service sectors such as natural resource, construction and maintenance, agriculture, production, transportation, and material handling. Law on health and safety. In Turkey, the Ministry of Family, Labour and Social Service is the main responsible organization in the field of occupational health and safety. OSHA, or the Occupational Health and Safety Law, aims to regulate the duties, authority, responsibility, rights and obligation of employers and employees in order to ensure occupational health and safety at workplace and to improve existing health and safety conditions. Under the OHS law, employers must take necessary measures for safety and health protection of the employees, prevent occupational risk, provide information and training for the employees, monitor and check whether occupational health and safety measures are taken, hire occupational safety specialists or occupational physician and other healthcare personnel, provide required equipment for occupational health and safety services at the workplace. Social Security Law. The lack of minimum retirement age and very low minimum contribution period caused a financial imbalance in Turkish social security system in the 1990s. With the ideas of restructuring the social security system in mid-2000, two important laws were enacted by the Turkish parliament. They are Social Security Institution Law and Social Insurance and General Health Insurance. The current social security system in Turkey is managed by Social Security Institution (SJK). The social security system in Turkey is composed of two main branches: the long-term insurance including old age, invalidity, and survivorship, while the short-term insurance branch containing work accidents and occupational disease, health and maternity. Unemployment insurance is governed by the Turkish Employment Agency, which is responsible for unemployment benefit. The system also aims at providing a general health insurance system which covers the whole population and provides quality service with easy access. Social Security Premium. The current regulations stipulate that the compulsory social security premium have to be shared between the employers and employee. The legal burden to pay a portion of employee is on the employers as well, however, that can be deducted from the employee's salary. The social security premium are calculated as a percentage of employees' gross earning, which includes salaries, wages, bonus payment, and private health insurance and individual retirement system payment made by the employer.
The minimum working age in Turkey is 15 years old. However, children over 14 years old who have finished their primary education may be employed in light work that will not hinder their physical, mental, and moral development. Young people who are continuing their education may do jobs that will not hinder them attending school. Nevertheless, the employment of boys or women under 18 years old in underground or underwater work such as mining, cable laying, and the construction of sewers and tunnels is prohibited. Children and young employees under 18 years old must not be employed on industrial works at night. About the notice to terminate a contract in Turkey, the Labour Act regulates minimum notice periods as follows according to the length of the employee service, which are notice periods are at least 2 weeks for employees which less than 6 months service, increasing to 4 weeks with 6 months service, 6 weeks after 18 months service, and 8 weeks after 3 years service. During the notice period, the employer must continue to provide work for the employee at the same wage rate and under the same working conditions, and the employee must continue working. The termination benefits in Turkey is 1 month per year of employment, although a maximum cap on the monthly salary calculation applies. As with the minimum wage, this cap frequently changes. If the employee has worked for the employer for at least 1 year, the employer must pay termination benefits at the rate of 30 days gross salary for each full year as the date on which the employment relationship between the parties commences. Payment must be made pro rata to the service period of the employee within a year. Calculation of severance payments must be made based on the latest gross salary. However, in any case, the maximum amount which can currently be paid to an employee as termination benefits is 6,730.15 Turkish lira, which is about 3,314 ringgit Malaysia for each year worked. If the employment is terminated based on just cause for cases which are incompatible with morals and goodwill, the employer is not required to make a severance payment, for example, termination due to reason of health, immoral, dishonorable, or malicious conduct, or other similar behavior of employee or force majeure. For the minimum wage in Turkey, it has a government-mandated minimum wage. No worker in Turkey should be paid less than the minimum pay rate. As of January 2021, the rate is about 2,943 Turkish lira, which is about 1,450 ringgit Malaysia. Although the labor law requires a determination of the minimum wage at least once in 2 years, the minimum wage in Turkey is determined every 6 months, which is January to June and January to December. The compliance with provision of labor law, including those on minimum wages, is ensured by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. If an employer pays less than the minimum wage, which determined by the Commission or as determined under a collective agreement or employment contract, he must pay 167 Turkish lira for each such violations. In accordance with Act 32 of the Labor Law, basic wage used in pay in monetary terms, while other benefits may be paid in cash or in kind. Wages must be paid in a legal tender, which is Turkish currency, and in cash or may be deposited in the employee's bank account. Wages must be paid once a month. The wage period may be fixed as 1 week through the employment contract or collective agreement. If a worker has not been paid wages within 20 days of the due date, except in case of force majeure, such workers may refrain from performing his or her duties. Next, in accordance with the regulation on amending the regulation regarding payments of wages, bonuses, premiums, and every kind of remuneration through banks published in the official gazette, the employment limit has been lowered to 5 employees, and establishments with 5 or more employees must pay all kinds of remuneration via banks' accounts.
So there are fixed working hours and limits set by the government of Turkey. First one will be the maximum working hours. The maximum working hours in Turkey allowed is 45 hours for 1 week, and the hours cannot be exceed 11 hours for the daily working hours. And the maximum night working hours will be 7.5 hours per week. Second, the rest day, employee must be given at least 24 hours rest time in a week. Third, overtime. Hours that exceed the limit of 45 hours per week will be paid as overtime hours, and the wages for each hour of overtime work is paid by raising the hour rate of regular working salary by 50%. And besides that, overtime hour work during the weekends and public holidays are to be paid as wages for 1 day holiday and overtime wages. Moreover, for the employee, they can be granted 1.5 hours of free time for every overtime hour work. The total overtime work cannot be exceed 270 hours per year, and there are certain categories of employees are not allowed to do overtime. First one will be the employees who are under 18 years old, and second, employees who are pregnant or just give birth. Third, employees who are working with definite terms employment contract, and lastly, employees who are proving they are lack of sanitary conditions. Under the part of rest break, the mandatory rest break period are workers who work up to 4 working hours will be resting for 50 minutes, up to 7.5 working hours will be rest for 30 minutes, and working for more than 7.5 hours will rest for 1 hour. However, there is different working hours and rest break for the workers who work on shift. Special provisions regarding shift worker employees are regulated and issued by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Under the regulations, shift worker employees cannot be forced to work without 11 hours of rest between their shift change, and at least 24 hours rest time must be given in a week. Under the part of sick leave, the amount of sick leave is depending on the seniority of workers, and according to the Labour Act, in case of illness or accident which are not the employee fault, the employer may terminate the employee's contract if the employee is still off work more than 6 weeks beyond the notice period. And the sick leave is unpaid paid due to the suspensions on the employee contract. However, for those workers who have paid contributions for 120 days during the previous 12 months, they will receive sickness benefit, and this benefit is equal to 50% of their earnings if the worker is hospitalized, and it will increase to 66% of earnings if the worker is being treated as an outpatient. And besides that, if a sick employee has not been working for more than 3 days, they can receive sick pay from the Social Security institutions of Turkey, provided that the employee has a medical report. And there are few processes for the employee to get the sick pay from the Social Security institutions. The first process will be they need to prepare a medical report by the doctor, and is sent automatically online to the Social Security institutions. Second, the Social Security institutions will make sick pay payment to the named bank under the national ID number of the insured. And third, there is no maximum period after which sick pay elapsed, but medical report exceeding 40 days must be received from a doctor's panel instead of a single doctor. And finally, if the time spent on sick leave by the employee goes 6 weeks beyond the notice period given in the employment contract between the parties, the employer will be entitled to terminate the employment contract with just cause. Next will be the employment of foreigners. There are rules and regulations for the foreigners to enter and work in Turkey. Failure in obtaining the required rules may face sanctions by the government of Turkey. The first one will be the visa. It is the first procedure for obtaining approval to enter and stay in Turkey. Normally, all foreign nationals must obtain a visa except citizens of countries that are exempt from the visa procedure under international agreement and consult of minister decisions. Foreign nationals who enter Turkey for professional purpose, officials visit, and business meeting, they can obtain a tourist or business visa. And for those who remain in Turkey for more than 90 days, they must obtain a resident permit. The cost for applying visa charge is 695 Turkish lira for single entry and 2,330 Turkish lira for multiple entry. Besides that, the applications of visa will be varies according to the applicant home country. Second is the permit. Permit is another procedure for obtaining approval to work in Turkey. The work permit applications in Turkey can be directly made to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. Applications from abroad can be made to the Embassy of Consulate General of Turkey, which will transfer the applications to the Ministry afterwards. For all the categories of employee, except foreign nationals who come to Turkey temporarily for professional, scientific, educational, cultural, and artistic purpose, and for sport activities, they must obtain work permit in order to work in Turkey. And there are charges applied for the permit, which are 932 Turkish lira for temporary work permit and work permit exemptions to certificate, and the charge for 9,331 Turkish lira for indefinite work permit and independent worker work permit. And the work permit applications can be made in accordance with the procedure will be finalized within 30 days at the latest by the ministry, provided that the documents are complete. Next, the employment of women. Night shifts are prohibited for women under the age of 18 in Turkey. Women are not allowed to work more than 7.5 hours for a day under any conditions. However, for those women who are working in the field of tourism, private security, and health service, they can be employed for more than 7.5 hours a day. But in these situations, written consent of women who will work for more than 7.5 hours is mandatory, and it is also mandatory for women to obtain a medical report indicating that she is suitable for working in night shift. And under the maternity of protections of women, according to Labour Act, pregnant employees must be away from work for a minimum pay leave of 16 weeks, which is 8 weeks before confinement and 8 weeks after. However, a pregnant woman may work up until 3 weeks before the confinement date, and she can also add the time she has worked to her leave after confinement, and the leave may be extended before or after confinement with a doctor's report. Women can also take unpaid leave up to 6 months until 8 months, and women are also entitled to daily nursing leave of 1.5 hours in order to feed their children below 1 year old. Moreover, women also entitled to a part-time temporary leave based on the number of children that the employee has, which are 16-day period for the first child, 120 days for the second child, and 180 days for third and above, and an additional than 60 days, part-time temporary leave will be added in the case of the birth of a disabled child. Minimum retirement age. In Turkey official retirement age is 60 for men and 58 for women, but most people work more than 6 years beyond that, with men retiring at 66 for 3 and women at 64 for 9. The official pension age will gradually rise to 65 for both men and women starting from the year 2048. For the employment of children, Turkey has existing laws in place that are to protect children from child labor. There is a minimum age requirement of 50 for agricultural work and a minimum age of 18 for hazardous work. However, for the age of 14, teenagers who have completed primary school may work in light jobs that present no physical challenge and ideally provide an educational or vocational work environment. The job for child worker may include assistant at a sports center or library, assistant at fair or exhibitions, selling newspaper and magazine, assistant in an office, and flower deliveries.
In terms of trade union, the oldest, biggest, and centrist labor confederation in Turkey is the Confederation of Turkish Trade Union. Confederation of Turkish Trade Unions has two types, which is left-wing, former Marxist and militant Confederation of Progressive Trade Unions of Turkey, DISK, and the conservative former Islamic and Religious Confederation of Righteous Trade Unions of Turkey, HAKİS. Confederation of Progressive Trade Unions of Turkey was legally banned for almost 12 years after the military coup and therefore lost a large portion of its members. While the affiliated unions of Turkey are generally organized in the public sector, DISK generally has members drawn from the private sector and it has a small number of pro-active unions, but they are not able to mobilize significant organizing power. As for HAKİS, it has a moderate position towards the government and consequently has been increasing its membership consistently since 2002, when AKP, the Justice and Development Party, became the ruling party. HAKİS is predominantly organized from the public sector. Although it holds Islamist and conservative values, HAKİS has gradually adopted a pro-European position and is seeking to become part of the international labor movement. In the public sector, the confederations KİSK, Turkey Kamu Sen, and Memur Sen are the most dominant. KESK, a driving force behind the creation of a legal framework for public servant union, is critical of government policy. Turkey Kamu Sen emerged as a confederation with a right-wing and nationalistic perspective but shifted to a less pro-government position after the outstanding growth of Memur Sen, although its ideological principles have remained constant. Meanwhile, Memur Sen, until 10 years ago, a very minor confederation, has increased its membership by 1,448%. Next, in terms of collective bargaining, the collective bargaining agreement that was signed in Turkey is either at the workplace or enterprise level, where the collective agreements are signed at the national and sector level for public servant. The duration of the collective agreement could be the cause of the arguments or disagreement in the process of collective bargaining due to the economic development in Turkey. There are two separate laws for private and public servant, which are Public Servant Unions and Bargaining Law number 46888, Collective Bargaining Right of Public Servant in Turkey, and Trade Union and Collective Bargaining Law number 6356 regulates union rights and freedom of workers, including collective bargaining agreement. As for the trade dispute, the most remarkable change that happened in industrial dispute is the regulation of mediation as a matter of trial. Some rules need to follow by the employers and the employees when it comes to mediation, where they need to involve in the voluntary mediation process, which all members need to be treated equally. The members need to be expert related with the whole process, be independent, and the process needs to be privileged as it rules. In Turkey, the percentage of considerable is related with labor law, since there are high numbers of employees which their problems are based on the judicial process that have a limited time to resolve the disagreement. In 2017, mediation become mandatory through the new code on the labor court, where the dispute increased from the monetary claim, collective employment contract, or reinstatement contract. In terms of the mediation expenses, whenever the parties fail to attend the mediation meeting without reasonable excuses, they will be entirely responsible for the cost of the meeting, even if the problem is resolved for the members' favor. But when the parties agreed at the end of the meeting, the cost of the meeting will be paid equally among the parties. Mediation has become a regular method that has been used by the parties because its voluntary nature and the burden in court decrease remarkably when enacted as a mandatory condition arises from labor law and commercial law.